I am very close to the camera today, you will have to excuse me, but my camera does not like the colour of my jumper, so you've got my face instead. What are we talking about today? Well, a few weeks ago I made a video about how I thought Etsy was clearing up the platform. Remains to be seen if it is actually doing that. Time will tell, we shall see. But it did raise some interesting questions, so I thought I would do a bit of a follow-up video and talk about that. Most of the questions came under a sort of umbrella of how do we prove to the algorithm that we are a handmade seller or our things are handmade. Actually, let's go back a little bit. For those who haven't seen the video, one of the things that Etsy said that they were doing to try and clear up the platform was that they were using their bots, their automated systems, to trawl the site and flag up any items that they thought weren't handmade. And then what they would do, and this is what got my attention, they would be there, you could see them, but they would not be searchable until they had been reviewed by a pair of human eyes. A person, not just random human eyes. That would be weird. I thought that was really bold, if in fact that is what they are doing. But it did raise the question then, well, what if they accidentally drag up a genuine handmade item? This is going to hurt handmade sellers. And when I say handmade, I am talking about print on demand and digital, because by Etsy's definition of handmade, they are included. So yeah, that's concerning. If you do print on demand, for example, one of the ways that I suggested was to purchase examples of the stuff that you sell, not from yourself, again, shilling, bad, but from the supplier, so that you could then take photographs. And this is actually something that some print on demand sellers do already, to sort of go above and beyond and to help themselves stand out. And some folks pointed out that they couldn't do that for every item. Now, first of all, no one's suggesting that you do it for every single item. That would be mad. But as someone who does have a small budget to spend on her own business, I do understand that that can be problematic. But I have ideas, because of course I do. And I thought I would share them with you in case you are in the same boat. Did I forget to introduce myself? I did. Wow, this is so professional. For those who are new, I'm Kim. This is the Coffee and Craft podcast. The whole idea is that I rock up, I chat to you, I drink coffee, and I keep you company while you work or craft. Sometimes I might craft as well, but I haven't crafted at the same time for a long time. But I do always drink coffee, because that is what I do. I drink coffee and I talk about things. That was supposed to be a Tyrion Lannister reference. It was bad. Ignore. The other thing that I tend to do is digress madly, and that's what we're going to do now. You want to come with me? You want to do a little bit of digressing with me? Come on, let's digress. Okay, so we've all got to assume that handmade, dropshipping, reselling, whether we are okay on the platform or not, we have to assume that the algorithm, I'm going to call it the algorithm just to keep things simple, the algorithm is going to be looking out for any items that it thinks is not handmade, and it might get us in its nets. I think the first thing is just to accept that. It sucks, but it has immediately made me wonder, what can I do in my Etsy shop, and in fact not even just in my Etsy shop, but just on my website in general, to not just let the algorithm know that my items are handmade and that I am a handmade seller, because contrary to what some people think, people do care about handmade. Handmade is not a dirty word. Can we just get that out of the way right now? Because I think over the years there does seem to have developed this anti-handmade rhetoric. Like it's either a hippie at the flea market or little grannies, with their knitted tea cozies and those little knitted doll things that you put over loo rolls in bathrooms. Anybody remember those? I'm going to put a picture of what I mean right here, because I need people to know that I'm not going crazy. These things existed. But I think people like to think of things like that when they think of handmade. It's like, oh, you make handmade things? That's nice. And I have seen within the handmade community another branch of this BS and that is people who make handmade stuff, but they want to distance themselves from handmade, and so now are using words like artisan to separate themselves from it. It's like, no. You be over there, you dirty handmakers of your handmade whatever, fripperies, and I will be here with my artisan goods, darling. I need to be careful not to get into a rant about that, because that really is a video for another day. We are concentrating. I told you I digressed, didn't I? I did tell you. I did warn you. I did warn you. Sorry, every so often I keep catching a glimpse of my my jumper in the... It is so bright. It's so bright, and I can remember now why I don't wear it in videos. My light agrees. What can we do to try and help the algorithms and our buyers know that our items are legitimately handmade? I'm going to focus on Etsy shops, mainly because most of us watching will have an Etsy shop, but not all of us will have a website. I have both, and I'm going to apply what I'm going to say on both places. But as I say, I'm just going to talk about Etsy because it's nice and easy. Often I will go on to Etsy and I will be looking for handmade. I'm not there for the mass-produced or anything. I take, for example, this mug. I've talked about this before. I knew I wanted a pumpkin mug, and I was looking for a hand-thrown pumpkin mug. I knew what kind I was looking for. This kind. I was not looking for a factory-made pumpkin mug with some generic text written on it. That just, so the amount of scrolling that I did and the amount of mugs that I saw that I was just like, nope. 4 separate days it took to find this. What's quite amusing is the amount of pumpkin mugs and hand-thrown mugs that I am now being shown by the Etsy algorithm. So if nothing else, I was able to train it to show me things that I actually wanted to see. Digressing a little bit more, because of course, this is my autumn mug, and it is the end of November as I speak to you. In fact, I think it's actually Thanksgiving. Is it Thanksgiving today? Yes, it is! Thursday, 23rd of November. Happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate it. You won't see this in time, never mind. My point is, this will be the last time that I film with this mug on here, because then we'll be flipping on over to my winter mug. And that's also handmade on Etsy. My point is that there are people who go to Etsy specifically for handmade goods, and they will not spend their money on mass-produced. So, you get my drift. Basically, there are people out there who care about handmade. Etsy, it used to, at the very least, have the upper hand with that, in that, you know, they would be the place to go to whenever you wanted a handmade anything. I still think it has the potential of being that, but they need to pull their finger out, and that's what that video was about. It was me going, this could be it, but we shall see. But again, oh my God, Kim, bring it back. If they are doing sweeps with bots, then we need to, number one, try and make sure that our shops are optimized as much as possible to show a bot that we are not mass-produced, that we are handmade. And if we do get swept up in their nets, then make it as easy as possible for a human who will be reviewing these items to see at a glance that we are genuine. How do we do that? Finally, I'm getting to the point of this video. I am sorry, but you know, I'm keeping you company, I hope, at the very least. I have 3 main things that I'm going to talk about this week that I think will be helpful, and the first one, images, because doesn't it always come down to images, but not in the way that you might think. Usually when I'm talking about images, I'm talking about your thumbnail and your pictures of the item, and it's usually me banging on about put it in your photographs, which is just putting the important information in the photographs, because not everybody can find or read the descriptions, etc, etc. So you want to make sure enough information is there for them visually straight away. That's not what I'm saying though. I'm digressing again. I'm talking about something that might be a little bit more controversial, because I do realise that not everyone's a fan of these images, and I'm talking about feedback review images. The images you have no control over. The images that your customers leave. The slightly less pretty ones. Taken in artificial yellow light like this. Those ones. Stay with me. Because while they may not be as pretty, I've realised that as a buyer, it's these that have been instrumental in me making my last few purchases. This mug, again, there were feedback pictures that showed me that I was going to get this mug, because the thing is, the pictures on the listing were beautiful. Chef kisses, absolutely gorgeous. I was concerned though that this mug was not what I was going to get, that I was going to get a cheap, badly made, mass-produced copy. And let's be honest, most buyers have been burned by that, not just on Etsy, but on numerous platforms online these days. So customer feedback photos are amazing because they are, what's the word? Social proof, and honest social proof, because your buyers who leave this feedback, first of all, they've made the effort to. When I leave feedback, I'm very bad. I very rarely leave photographs with the feedback. I really need to get better at that to help the sellers involved, because they are not making any money from the thing. So they're not, be quiet. They're not invested in making beautiful photographs. They're not biased in any way. They're going to show the product even in ugly light, even in the worst lighting, in the worst setting. And that's actually a strength. I know that a lot of people don't like it, but hear me out. If your item can still represent itself in the worst light and a bit blurry and in the hands of someone who's not there to make it look its best, that's going to build trust. Now, I know that as sellers, that makes us feel very uncomfortable. It's like, oh, but it just doesn't look good. I know, but that's the point. That's the point of these photographs, is that they are supposed to look real. This is how your item is going to look in a real person setting, not in the zhuzhy magazine quality setting, which, let's be honest, is about as realistic as a unicorn. I think the photographs that your customers leave with your products are going to be instrumental in showing people, showing the algorithms, showing your buyers that your products are handmade and they are what you say they are. They are representative of what someone is going to get, actually going to get. Another quick story for you. I have been on the lookout for some silver rings, and I found one, and again, there was a lot of trawling, not because I couldn't find silver rings, but I was looking for sterling silver rings that were actually sterling silver and that they were what they claimed to be. I found one and I loved the look of it, and I if it hadn't have been for the reviews, I would have bought it. I'm so glad I didn't, because all of the reviews showed pictures of somebody wearing these rings after a day or two and then getting that green mark on their finger. Now, if you're worried about people showing your item in a bad light, don't sell a crappy item. That would be my first piece of advice, because what that told me as a buyer was that yes, it was a cheap item because it wasn't sterling silver as it was claiming, and it was leaving green marks on people's fingers. I didn't want that, so I didn't buy from them. Instead, I found someone who was genuinely a handmade maker, someone who provided photographs proving that the items were sterling silver. And then she had pictures from her customers raving, all of them, not one green mark on their skin. I bought that one, I loved it, I bought the wrong size. I gifted the ring to my mother-in-law, but I will be back to buy myself another one in the right size next time. But this is my point. It was customer photographs that led me to this seller, and I'm going to come back because they really were as good as they claimed to be. So customer photographs. But again, like I said earlier, we have no control over that. So how can we bring them in? Well, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to this, because I'm an Etsy seller myself and I'm going to have to do that. I think if we send out thank you notes, for example, maybe that's something that we could lean into, rather than just saying, if you love your item, we'd love feedback. Something like, if you love your item and you think it's deserved, we would love to see it. You know, post a picture of you wearing the item on our Etsy shop, for example. Just make it clear. The call to action has to be clear. So maybe we need to think of it in that way. But also social media. I don't know. I should look into this. I will put yes or no here if you can. But I would be very surprised if you can't share customer images from Etsy to social media. That would be something to look into. Or if not, just even put a shout out on social media or wherever you are, wherever you promote your shop. You know, encourage people to post these images. The only way that I think that we could be worried about customer images is if we are sending something out that isn't a good product, or we are sending stuff out that is not the same as what we're advertising, in which case, oh well, tiny violin time. Me, 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 me. I make myself laugh anyway. So that was number one. And the other thing, and I've used this, I never used to, but recently this has become a piece of my behaviour as a buyer that has changed and evolved over the last year or so. I check out people's about sections. Now, I don't read them line by line, and I don't think I've ever read an entire one. It's more of a glance test, because I've noticed that dropshippers, resellers, that kind of thing, they do fill it out, but there's never any personal pictures. There's never any pictures of them doing the work. This is why I think it's a lot easier these days for handmade sellers to stand out from the generic ones, because it's very easy to say, I'm the owner and this is my assistant and this person takes photographs, and you're like, no. Because people can cross-reference. If you have a picture of you as the owner and you have pictures of you making your products in the about section, which I'm pretty sure you can even include a video in, FYI, and then you have a link to your social media. For example, in my case, it's Instagram. People can follow you over there. If they see your face over in Instagram, in the grid and in the stories as well, and you're just there, not looking your best. You know, you've got your hair up like this, and you're looking a bit bedraggled, and you're like, oh, busy day today. I don't know why I went, oh. You get my drift. It's sort of a way to cross-reference and build up that trust factor, because every single business that I've found that just does generic tat, there is none of that. There is no way to find out more about the person behind the shop. They just tend to be generic people or a generic person, and there's a lot of images. There's a lot of images of models modeling the thing. There's a lot of product images. There's no images of the person or the process behind the making of the thing. So when I'm looking at people's about sections, I'm basically doing that. I'm doing the glance test. It's like, who's the face? Who's the owner? Who's the maker? Where can I find out more about them? If I click on the Instagram picture, do they correlate? Are there more pictures and more images and more info about this person there? If there isn't, then it's like, noted. Don't forget, these are businesses online, and if you are running a business online, it makes sense that you have to market yourself online. It never ceases to amaze me how many people will say, oh, I didn't get into doing this to become a content creator or what have you. And then I think, well, what do you want to do all day? Just create? That's not a business, that's a hobby. And you're lucky if you can do it all day. Most of us will have to work sometime, and if you have a brick and mortar store out on the high street, you still have to advertise. But if you're online, you have to advertise yourself online, and that looks like content creation in some way, shape or form. So you don't get out of doing the work just because you don't like it. Digressing again, let's get back to the video. So we've covered two things now. You've got the review photographs from the customers and how we can try to encourage those. You've got the about section and how you can really use that to add visuals and even a video about your process and you. Even if people don't watch it to the end, even if people just glance at it, they will immediately understand that there is an actual person behind this and there is a process, and that will go a long way. And the last one, which will help back all of this up, are just the words you use in everything. We can talk about keywords with regards to SEO in your title and tags and description and metadata and all of the rest of it. But I'm not just talking about keywords. I think that's, if we just think of it in those terms, then we're missing a trick. Just being honest and open and transparent, like I've always said. Like even a sentence that says these items are genuinely handmade. Just think about the things that you can say, the words that you can use that will back up that your items are handmade, that they are not factory made. Yes, any seller can put handmade in their titles, and I've seen it. You can, the amount of mass-produced stuff that has handmade in a title is quite astounding. These are 3 things that I think are really easy for us as handmade sellers to incorporate into our listings and into our shop. And the good thing is that because we are smaller businesses, we can adapt and change fairly quickly. And I think that is what we're going to have to do, especially as we know that Etsy is doing this and that this is going on now. We just have to try and think of ways, any way, that we can show what we're doing and that we are genuine at a glance. And that is going to be throughout everything: our images, our videos, our about section, the words that we use, and yes, encouraging our customers to leave photographs with their reviews. And I need to get better at that myself. I think it's going to play a bigger and bigger part in helping handmade sellers stand out. Because if you are selling a good product, you shouldn't worry about poor lighting or images that aren't pretty, because they actually help. They add a level of trust to your item that you can't as a seller, because you are the seller. You are by definition biased about your product, whereas the buyers who have spent their money on it and who have received it, their word is more trustworthy. For right or wrong, it's more trustworthy. So if they post an image and they're like, I love this product, and yes, it might not be in the best lighting or what have you, as a buyer I would place more weight on that than anything else. Can that be gamed by people with malicious intent? Of course it can. Unfortunately, everything can. And the fact that we are dealing with this problem is testament to that, because we are having to do this because people have got onto the platform with malicious intent. So this is how we're having to adapt and adjust our sales to deal with them. Life is never dull as a handmade seller, eh? Alright, me and my bright jumper are going to go now. If you would like to see the video where I talk about what Etsy's doing to try and tidy up the platform, there it is. Go give that a watch and tell me what you think. Like I say, time will tell.